Good afternoon and welcome to The Joy is in the Journey. My name is Gina and I am a practitioner and ministerial student, blessed to be here with you. I'm coming to you from Rhode Island and so grateful that you have turned into a wonderful episode of The Joy is in the Journey. So happy to be here with our guest today. And just so you know what this show is all about, if it happens to be your first time here, The Joy is in the Journey is a reminder to appreciate life now. That right where you are, there is beauty, there is good, and you will never, ever be here again. Far too often we celebrate destination happiness. We think, well, when I have the job, that car, that relationship, then I'll be happy. When I've lost the weight, when I've done whatever it is, it's somewhere else. Problem with that is there's always an additional thing to get to. Right here, right now is where all of our power is. And in this show, we talk with different people to realize how they get their joy. Where is theirs derived from? To give suggestions of different modalities, different possibilities, a different way of looking at life to be more joyful. Right here and right now. So today I have invited Rev Dr David Ault, and I am very excited to have him here with us. For over 30 years, he has been teaching, coaching. He's a keynote presenter. He's an amazing musician, with having worked on over 13 albums. He is he's a philanthropist. He started a wonderful nonprofit called Kaleidoscope Children Foundation. And he's done so many things. And I don't know how we're going to fit it all in, but so grateful to be here with you today. Well, welcome, Reverend Dr. David Ault. Welcome
to
Gina. Journey.
Hi, Gina. Thank you so much for having me.
Definitely a blessing. And I always I want to know, first and foremost, what brings you joy? What brings you the most joy in your life?
Gosh, that's such a quick lead into my life's work and my life's passion. And that is being with my kids. My kids, meaning all of the children that are a part of the territories that we serve with free education and hygiene and meals and life skills. And so I am completely immersed in joy when I'm in India with my children and observing the sponge-like nature within them that takes the offering of anything like an education and they just embrace it with such enthusiasm. There's no pushing away. Being in Guatemala, observing these young girls that we give scholarships to help them rise above slave labor practices, and to see the tenacity by which they get up every single morning and they may travel over 2 hours just to cross the threshold of a classroom, and the joy of being able to do that, of Cambodia all of those years where it started, and even in monsoon season, these kids would be standing at the gate every day. And so to see how well they value that opportunity is something that just cracks my heart open every single time.
So many things that we take for granted that are so freely given to us that we overlook. And here they are walking hours, doing anything just to have the opportunity for it. And you're talking about your kaleidoscope. I just want to make sure people know how to reach and go to that website, because the work that you do is amazing. And you are in addition to the US, you're in 3 different countries, correct? Mm-hmm. It is Guatemala, India, and Cambodia.
Right. And we started in Cambodia, or the beginnings of it happened there just on a sacred site journey. You talk to a lot of people and they will tell you what's the most inspired want-to-go destination in the world, and believe it or not, it's Siem Reap, Cambodia, because one of the ancient wonders of the world is there. It's called Angkor Wat, and it's the largest spiritual complex in existence. And so many, many people come there. I knew nothing about it in the early 2000s, but had an opportunity to take people in 2004. It was a part of a trip that also went to Thailand. And I tell you, when I landed, you ever been somewhere and you go, gosh, this feels like home? It's just inexplicable. There is this affinity instantly. And even though it was just so hard and difficult to witness the poverty at that time, it felt like I was home. And circumstances happened there, but yeah, those places and those kids are just my heart.
Sometimes I think that those feelings, maybe those past lives, or there's other opportunities that maybe we were there. Maybe it's more familiar than we realize. You never know.
Yeah, we should come back to that because I have something fun to share about that. But
go right ahead. We don't have to come back.
Well,
today, whatever is meant to.
Okay, cool. So I love Ram Dass, the teachings of Ram Dass. I used to joke and say I was a closeted Ram Dass devotee for decades. And I just pour myself into his story and his teachings. And in fact, if you ever go to Be Here Now, the network, you can listen to just hundreds and hundreds of archival talks of his. And one of the things he always used to joke about is he would be at a lecture. These are all archived lectures over many decades. And he would get up in front of the crowd and he'd say, "So lovely to see you all again." And it would be somewhere he'd never been. And his philosophy and his belief is that, yes, there is this thing called incarnation where we take on the different personas, but there's also Matt Kahn, if you're a fan of Matt Kahn's also, who's relevant now, he called it a meta incarnation, meaning that Gina, you've been doing Gina countless times. David, I've been doing David countless times. And the first time that kind of sunk in, I went, sometimes those deja vus mean that I, David, have been in this very same spot before. It's kind of mind-blowing to think about it. The Buddhists have a thing called the net of Indra, which is like prisms in a net, and it just every mirror reflects into the other mirror, and then you start to see the infinity of it all. And so when I think of the infinite quantum nature of reality, I go, why not? Meta incarnations. You and I have probably done this broadcast who knows how many times,
but not necessarily in this form, or maybe it was.
Maybe it was, but we get to take it to, that's what's so great about a fear, is when you can have a noticeable fear and face it anyway, or have a stigma or a wound or a narrative that's really difficult to let go of. If you can purposefully and intentionally lean into that and dismantle that, perhaps that's the first time in all the meta incarnations that you've been able to do that. Absolutely. And sometimes when I think about that, I just get goosebumps.
Well, they're our teachers. All of these things are our teachers.
Yeah.
So if we're able to lean in and just know that the truth is already here, we can let that go for not only, it heals. I believe it heals the past and forward. So, Einstein talks about relativity. It's not just here and now. There's so much that ripples both ways, I believe. So yes, it's amazing. And I love
the things that make my mind explode. So it's great to be on the show again, Gina.
It's new thought, though. We get to play with the idea that anything is possible. The one thing that I know is that I don't know it all. I don't even know a glimmer. And the older I get and the more I study and learn and be in this workshop called life, the more I realize I know less and less. And that's okay. The ego doesn't have to win.
Right.
I can be okay just being the student forever. And that's the gift of it.
That's a beautiful thing.
It's when we think we have to or supposed to know that we stay in those hang-ups instead of allowing the wave to go by.
Right.
because even guilt or fear, guilt, anxiety, all of that, those are waves of emotion. They're not a real thing, it's an emotion. And when we allow it, it will pass. But we're in a society that says, oh no, either don't acknowledge it or you have to be stronger than it. Mm-hmm. And that's when people crumble. That's when, including myself. For me, it was denial. That was the tool I used. And that turned into cancer. So after a dozen tumors in my kidneys from denying grief, I said, I think I'm going to learn the lesson here and let it process, as Beautiful. Crappy as it may feel.
Be the witness of it. Absolutely.
So back to your many, many, many things that I wanted to talk about. And tell me about the gathering, your wisdom school. You have made it so that we can all be your students. And I love that. So tell me how this works.
Like everyone else, during the early part of 2020, when our world was shifting, it was, how do we connect? And I had stepped down from pulpit ministry at the end of 2018 and was moving more full-time into doing the work with Kaleidoscope Child Foundation. And I decided to just, like everyone else, go online and do a little 30-minute chat, a little observational talk, and just to offer a way for people to connect in all of that uncertainty. And a lot of people tuned in, and it was fun, and there was a nice little consistency going on, and it just went on and on all the way through 2020. I decided to go ahead and dive in and do all of the paperwork to make it a nonprofit, a ministry nonprofit, and leaned into all of that. And so the gathering is just the name that I came up with for the 30 minutes that we gather on a Sunday. Now, oddly, because this Sunday is my first time to be getting on a plane, I realize I won't have the accessibility and the live opportunity to do what I've been doing since March of 2020. And so I figured it out and have my little intro, outro, and now it's just going to go live on my business page, my professional page, the David Ault page, as the gathering. And so that's free, available to everybody. And it's, again, a way to kind of share. And plus, who, as a former minister or as a student, doesn't love research and giving a talk? So I love how I'll pick something that I'm going to say, and then my whole week is about paying attention to the things that go with the relevancy of that topic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just so people have your information, it is here, and you can either screenshot it if it's on your phone, or it's davidault.com is your website, and that's your email as well, david@davidault.com.
Right.
And I'll put that up again later on. But
and the website too, it has a wisdom school that I've been doing now for a couple of years, and there's another 7-week thing I'm doing called Quiet on the Inside that people can take for classes, and I've just had so much fun teaching.
That looks fabulous, because there's some wonderful topics and books that go along with that. So I was looking at that, and that looked fabulous. So again, people can take a look at your website, davidault.com, to go to that. And you had spoken at Concordia, where I'm now in the Greater Boston CSL, but I was at Concordia for years, and you've spoken there several times, and I know you go around to many different CSLs and probably Unities as well.
Right.
It's such a gift to know that there are people, like-minded people, with that open thirst for truth, and that freedom of expression, for conversations just like this, where we can talk about, well, this may be the dozen time that we've done this. We can say whatever it may be, and there is no against.
Yeah.
Because there is only one. what a gift to have a platform like this to share that good news, that there is no against. Whatever you believe, you're welcome here. And we've actually had guests that are everything from mediumship to, we've talked about precious oils, essential oils. We've talked about Reiki and Ayurvedic. We've talked about all types of different medicines. And as far as the holistic side, it's so important to know that there's more than just mainstream.
I was blessed to have a teacher in my early lessons and study in religious science, and her motto was, "Whatever gets you through the night."
Please share more than that, because
I loved that.
Name drop
I
it.
loved that. Her name is Maureen Hoyt. She's still very much fully present and amazing, and a wonder. It was a great entry into this, where there was such rigidity depending upon where you went.
Yes.
And when she would say, "Whatever gets you through the night," it was carte blanche, open, available to uncover what it is that resonates for you, and to not make anything wrong. And I really love that. I love the smorgasbord ability to be able to partake of the things that have deep meaning for me personally, and to understand that not everybody is the same.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you're from Texas. How long have you been in Atlanta?
11 years. Yeah.
And over the past, it's been quite the year and a half to 2 years at this point. Tell me, especially whether it's from the point of view of the foundation, or whether it's the point of view of where you are now in Atlanta, just in general, what has been your experience? What has been the wisdom, or some of the lessons that have come out of that? Because there's good here, mm-hmm. and we have to look for that good. What is it that has called to you in that?
There's a word called bodhisattva, and basically it means to help alleviate the suffering of others. I don't know of any other holy or mighty work that we can do as sentient beings than to surrender to being a bodhisattva, and understanding the multitude of ways in which that can be delivered and expressed. Because in the mass forgetfulness, when we do forget the inclusivity, when we do forget there is no us and them, and when volumes of the population don't even understand what that means, the best way to bring it all home, the best way to dissolve whatever resistance and restriction there is to be a bodhisattva. And so the Hindus call it karma yoga. It's what is my creativity? What is my gift to the world? And so when we can get really solid about what our karma yoga is, and then we give that our all, our whole heart, and become wholehearted in that path, there's nothing sweeter, in spite of appearance. When I would taught so many science of mind classes over the years with many, many people, and I used to tell or give a mantra to my students, and I'd say, repeat after me. No, I can't remember it. Oh, that's so funny. It's about, in spite of appearances, there is.
It'll come back.
I'm dehydrated.
It's okay. It'll come back. Not to worry.
Even in the apparent absence of. That's it. And then there's a little poetic turn of phrase to it. So even in the apparent absence of. So even in the apparent absence of civility, there is civility. Even in the apparent absence of solution, there is solution. Even in the apparent absence of love, there is love. There's nothing that is void of that truth. It becomes our personal mission then to move beyond, or to get beyond, or to allow what is beyond to reveal itself. And that's nobody else's responsibility. So to be a bodhisattva, to help move people to the beyond the appearance, I think is amazing. Brain kicked back in.
I understand that all too well. I love, being the change you wish to see in the world. That's what really, the Peace Circle on Monday nights is all about, is that, well, what do I wish to see? Who wouldn't want peace? Inner and outer, who wouldn't want that? And am I contributing to it? So in this sense, it is when we're seeing things that aren't the way I would choose for them to look, am I contributing to how I want them to look? Or am I complaining, which magnetizes more of that? So what am I doing? Am I being part of the solution, or am I creating what it is I'm seeing? So it's there's so many layers to, and it doesn't mean, it's so important to note that it's not bypassing. It's not about, spiritual bypass, is dangerous. There's so many people call a thing a thing. When you see it as it is what it is, and you're seeing that, it doesn't mean that it's staying that way, or that it's really that way. But whatever is apparent right now is showing up to teach me something. And if I'm not acknowledging that, it's going to go deeper right where it is.
Not everything is as it seems. And how do you make that meaningful instead of just some kind of bumper sticker wisdom? How do you embody that? How does that comfort you? How do you bring integrity to that truth? And the only way that we do that is through our personal practice. The phrase that we've always, we made popular about insanity, that's doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Well, last year I just had this epiphany about a new definition of insanity. And that is looking at a single plane of existence, or a singular dimensional problem, and only leaving it at that, whereas living in a multi-dimensional experience and trying to fix it with a singular dimensional answer, meaning that everything's not as it seems. And it takes a bit to reorchestrate the consciousness, the self-awareness, the mind, to understand what a quantum world is. But if you're willing to lean into it, you can begin to see that there is something beyond appearance. You can just look at nature, and it gives you the divine example that a cloud isn't the limit of what the sky is. And so when you can take that and overlay it into all of existence, then insanity is trying to give a singular dimensional answer or tactic or approach to a multidimensional experience. And the reason that I bring that up is because that, to me, is the most critical piece to advocacy. That, to me, is the most empowering piece to this idea of social justice, meaning that until I can learn and get rooted in a multidimensional awareness that it is all perfect, it's not bypassing. It's the perfect patterning that Ernest Holmes talked about. It is the divine one. It is all is God. How are any of us going to know what that means if we keep trying to solve it from a singular dimensional approach? You have to understand that something is beyond the beyond. When I can take a breath and I can go, okay, I can consider, I am willing to accept the idea that it is all perfect. On some plane, it is all perfect. Then I can take that willingness into this plane of existence and go face to face with the systemic issue. And what I can bring to it is something much larger than fighting against it. What I can bring to it is a vision that doesn't have to be explained. What I can bring to it is an energy that doesn't need any defense mechanisms. It just stands in front of it. And in that moment, that systemic issue begins to soften. That's what I feel that we need. You know, when
Showing
yeah.
up, and not as love, as I don't want to say the word solution, but showing up, embodying the energy at the level of what I know is true,
Mhm.
as opposed to being distracted by what I don't want. Because there is no against.
And yet, against is something that we run up against every day.
Yes.
Against. I mean, it's just there. It's a part of the human curriculum. And we're all going to take the curriculum. So there's no getting around it. But the beautiful thing is that then notice what you are against and then lean into it. Notice what the fear is and lean into it. Instead of trying to protect yourself or cultivate a lifestyle that doesn't have to look at or that avoids that at all costs, we get to lean into those things. I want to make that spiritual philosophical truth true for me. I want to know that God is all that there is. And there are many days that I don't know that, but I want to. So instead of just saying it, instead of just, teaching it, how am I going to live it? Man, there was somebody at a CSL conference one year, and he said, people don't want to hear a sermon. They want to see it. They want to see a sermon. Never forgot that.
You said on your website, you said you love leading through example, and you abide by the motto that people would rather see a lesson than hear one.
Yeah, so I changed the word sermon so that my corporate gigs would accept me.
But it really is. It's being that example that, be the change. And what does that look like? And what, how can I be in a place of againstness and think anything's going to be fixed? Sometimes, oftentimes my prayer, is, Spirit, fix my eyes. Because it's the lenses that I see through that see things I don't like. It doesn't mean that they're wrong because I am not liking what I see. So, another prayer that I've heard that's very quick and it helps me immensely is, bless them, fix me. So fix my eyes that I may be at peace, and bless whatever it is I see. Bless them, fix me. And that helps me remember that I'm the only one that I can do something about. I can offer prayer, I can offer energy and love and know the truth of anyone, but I'm the only one that I can change. And I'm a full-time job. So if I'm looking at you, then I'm not doing my part. So, that fix my eyes reminds me that, that if I can't see out the window, it may be on my side. And it's a different way of what if?
Yeah.
What if they might be right? Why does there have to be a right and wrong? Because that's how we feel. And it's learning how to coexist in that loving space.
I mean, imagine if you had 30 minutes of full-blown awareness that God is all that there is. Imagine. And then look at how that is the cornerstone of our teaching. But I don't know very many of us who really abide in that. And so it's not a right or wrong thing. It's a calling. It's a calling to go deeper. It's a calling to turn to all of the things that might be obstructing our vision to be able to see that. It's a beckoning. It's a beckoning to something that wants us to understand we are far more than what we believe we are capable of.
Very true. Wayne said, it's all a design to just blow our minds.
Eleanor Roosevelt, she used to say, you must do the thing that you think you cannot do.
Yes.
And I love that. And because when you do the thing you think you cannot do, you come to the realization that you could have always done it.
And then you go on to the next thing that you doubted before.
And we spiral, and we just keep spiraling up. Yeah.
Because we are the examples for our children, for our family members. We are the examples for everyone we know. And if I allow limits to be on me, then I'm just going to think, well, that's all there is. You know, and it's not that that's all there is. It's all I've known before me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if that's all there is, then we wouldn't be here, because spirit wouldn't need to express more. There wouldn't be new people born, babies born every day.
You know, your prayer reminds me of my favorite quote. Anybody ever ask you what is your favorite quote, Gina? Do you have one?
I do. Marianne Williamson's.
Okay.
The one that Nelson Mandela said.
Right.
Long one.
Your playing small doesn't serve the world. Okay.
The whole quote, though, I love every bit of it. It's so powerful.
So thematically with Marianne Williamson is it's from A Course in Miracles, and it is love brings up everything unlike itself. And it never landed for the longest time. Back in the day was a student of the Course in Miracles, and then one day it hit. If I stand before you and I say that I'm an advocate for love, then everything unlike love kind of rises up, like steam on a pond. It rises up in my field of experience in order for me to choose differently, in order for me to bring integrity to my advocacy. So peace brings up everything unlike itself, not because it's like trying to test me, but in order to support my intention. You remember in the day when people go, don't pray for patience because you'll get it. But
I'm not gonna lie to you, I still do not pray for patience.
But another way to view that is I'm an advocate for patience. So then everything unlike or that requires patience, it bubbles up again, and it's like okay, what if we did that with all the cornerstones of all the virtues and the things, and realize that when we advocate and say I am for that or I am that, then it bubbles up like it should, like it's a natural part of the process to slough off and to make space for more of that intention. And
we're always going to be handed opportunities
to
be that. And it wouldn't mean anything if we didn't have to go through something to be that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't necessarily like the word lessons, because it denotes, just like I don't like the word work. It is our journey. Just like this, the joy is in the journey. Right. The journey is not, it's 95 here today. That's a little bit warm for me. But I don't have to like every day of I don't have to like every moment of every day the way that it may look for it to be perfectly the way that it's meant to be. There's a lot of stuff that happens. Life is colorful.
Yes,
and
it is.
There's many blessings that come from those colors. Yeah. Far more than just the easy days.
Right. That's right.
So tell me about your books. You have two. You're a best-selling author, and I'm going to show them both. So I want to just tell me about the grass is greener.
I let me preface by saying it takes me a long time to write a book. That book and the one before that, Where Regret Cannot Find Me, were a collection of spiritual essays or lessons, each having a very bite-sized beginning, middle, and end, offering some consideration. If you like the daily guides from the Science of Mind magazine we were talking about earlier.
It was, what month was it that you had done the daily? It was
this year. Yeah, this year it was June. I enjoy that that style of writing to bring like a condensed lesson
Science in My
is
Magazine is what we're talking about for those
yeah.
that are wondering.
And so these books are collections of things that have been life experiences for me, and offering questions and opportunities for study in that. And I enjoy that. The book that I'm working on now it's years in the making. People say, why do you take so long between books? And I go, I got life to live. I got to live the experience before I can write about it.
You also do 10 other things. Just
yeah. And so I'm writing a book about non-duality, and I'm writing a book about the nature of polarity, and how I feel that is so pivotal to the healing of us as a species, that if I can understand there is no other. And so it's just been this just swimming up tar kind of experience. And like we've been talking about, it's the most thrilling thing for me to do creatively, believe it or not. It's torturous and it's thrilling all at the same time, because it's like casting a line into the ethers, like fly fishing, and you're kind of pulling out all kinds of thoughts and phraseology and wisdom from who knows where, and putting it all together. And thank God for an editor, and she's tightening the reins a little bit so that I can speed the process up. But I love to write. And it's hard.
Well, you do articles and different columns and things like that as well. So you do other things along the way in addition to teaching, because every sermon is a chapter.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. It's not like you're not doing, it's just not in written form. It just comes in different ways and for different people. So it's, you also, I want to talk about your singing because you have a beautiful voice. I've been blessed to not only hear your recordings, but I've gotten to hear you live as well. And I asked, just letting everybody know, I asked him before we started this, and you're like, not right now. There's too many other things going on. No new albums in the mix.
Yeah. I got too much in my head. Let's just be honest. I got too much in my head with the music, because singing to me is the most naked of activities, the most vulnerable. You can't fake singing. I can be sick as a dog and have 102 fever and a cold, and I can still get up and give a morning lecture or teach a class, but you can't sing. And so there's something about that. And long ago, when there was a health issue with my heart and a bunch of other things, it began to affect my reliability on that. And I began to become afraid. And so the pure joy of singing that I had had for most of my life as a little boy, I sang, and in New York City and in Broadway tour shows and all that kind of stuff, just sing and sing and sing and never think about it. And the moment that I started to have difficulty with it, it became very vulnerable. And then I kind of lost it there for a few years. And the journey back then, and what's so great about it is I can talk about it and I can say it's still kind of vulnerable. But what it made me also do is let go of the identity inside of me that was too much of a perfectionist. That it was okay. I don't know about you, but I've gone and watched people sing who crack and who do things, but they're so devoted to the art and the expression, you don't care, because they're just giving their heart and soul to it. And I'm still in a kind of a very long-term reconciliation with myself about that. And of course, life just did get incredibly busy as a senior minister and all the other things. But the pandemic has been helpful, because I've been singing a lot on screen to people. And Karen Drucker and I, who used to tour together, we did a reunion concert last year. So it's still there.
And you did it
It's
on this
still
network. You did it for
We
us.
did, yeah.
Utah Media Network. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
And just know that we love you and we love your voice as well. I think sometimes things like that happen because it's time for the next chapter.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes that spirit, it takes what it takes to get us in a door.
Wow, Gina, you're so right. You're so right,
And
because
then
I never thought about it
time
that
for a
way.
different voice, your different voice came.
Yeah.
And when it was time for a different voice again, and doing different works, that came too. So you've gone in stages, and it's it happened for me on this network as well, that I was in a class and I really saw I had a calling, never planned to go into ministry whatsoever, and I ended up with a knowing that it was meant to be right at the end of Prac 2, and I said, okay, started classes right away, but in no hurry. And then I got the knowing I'm meant to be in Boston, just a knowing. I'm like, oh, okay, then I'll do it. But it was one of those I didn't want to. So I was in a class, and Reverend Dr. Tony LaMotta, who is very straightforward, and if you know her, I'm not sure, but she's very to the point. She said, well, what would you love? And I'm a life coach, and I say that to people all the time, but it's one thing to be the teacher, and it's another one to be taught, because, it's not as easy on the other side sometimes. And she really caught me with it. But what would you, that's nice that you're going to do this, but what would you love? And 2 days later, I met with Reverend Robert about the network and started my shows.
Beautiful.
This was my passion. This was my love. And I ended up in Boston. So everything happened, but Spirit showed me you can have both. So you're doing all of it.
Yeah. One of the things that came, and it started with this like year and a half long cough, but one of the things that happened with that and the debilitating nature to that is it made me stop traveling. Do you know I used to travel 38 weeks out of a year? And it was at a time when it was predominantly New Thought music, and I really was kind of pioneering a whole new territory and building on what I had done as a part of a trio with Alliance and my work with Louise Hay. And so it was nonstop, but what happened made me stop. And a series of circumstances of being at home. And that's when I wrote my first book. Because that, like you were suggesting, you're spot on, is that avenue of creativity and expression got redirected. And I don't know if I would have ever taken the time to do that had that not happened.
Another one of my prayers is, what would you have me be?
Yeah.
What not do, because doing was my whole life, but it kept me from being. It was easier to do because that's how I found my worth.
Right.
Than being where I didn't feel good about myself.
Ooh, I'm going to high five you through the screen. High five on that doing thing. I know. Because
it was easy. When you were happy with me, I could be happy.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, I didn't know how to feel worth. I didn't know that it was inherent. There wasn't that. I didn't have that self-love. So if you felt good and I did for you, then I felt worthy.
Yep.
So that, now it's, what would you have me be? And the answer is now ministry, which again, I'm like, really? But that's not the story. So it's one of those things that for me, I have to be careful, really be wise with what you're asking, because there's been a lot of doors that didn't open. And then it was heartbreaking. And now I see that if anything happened differently, including 2 major cancer surgeries and years of, rehab and all that goes along with it. If it did happen any other way, I would never be right here, right now. Mm-hmm. And I know that with all of my heart, it's exactly where I'm supposed to be. So, life happens that way if we're paying attention.
That's right. Good for you.
We don't miss anything. It's Spirit through us that is, when we allow, really leading the way. So your work, there's so much that you do in so many different areas. You touch the lives of over 1,000 children every year and growing. So
I like to say they touch mine. Yeah, it's hard to describe.
but
It's hard to
had your voice never changed, it may not have happened that way.
right. You're right. It's hard to describe. You know how we talk about words can diminish the experience.
Oh yes.
So words diminish the experience when I stay for great lengths of time in a slum called Lakhanpur in India, and with people who have nothing, and then an adjacent slum in the smallish city of Bodh Gaya, which happens to be where the Bodhi tree is, by the way. And so it's already got quite a sacred vibe to it. It's the most unusual, uncharacteristic pocket of quiet in a very noisy country of India, but severely poor. But to bear witness to the generosity and the joy, I was there in 2017, and I was there in May. Never go to India in May, by the way. That's free advice. Heat, probably 115 degrees every single day, and I was there for several weeks. And we went because heart surgery had been postponed for me here, and then we finally went. And because we were going to break ground for the school we were building in this slum of Lakhanpur, and it needed to move forward. And yet, in the Hindu culture, you got to have the ceremony, and you got to call the Brahmin in, and you got to do all that stuff, and that's necessary and important. So we're going to do it. So we go in May. Well, I get a heat stroke about like 2 days before leaving. And I'm in the classrooms in Bodh Gaya, and I'll spare you the details, but I looked to my administrator. His name is Nandu. He's in his late 20s, and he's a genius, and he's done such amazing work for us. And I looked at him and I said, I don't want to make a scene, but so he kind of put his arm around my neck and kind of walked me down the little stairway of the building to where his family lives in the slum. Like literally move past the goats and the cows and you're there. They lay me on the bed, the only bed that they have. It's a large family, large typical Indian family. They bring out a box fan that they weren't even using because they were saving the money, the electricity. They plug it in. All of the Indian women gather around me, and they put these wet cloths on my head to sort of bring me back. And they've called the Ayurvedic woman in the village to come, and she's crushing things in her palm and shoving them down my throat. And I kind of look up, and there's just all these beaming, loving faces just hovering over me, trying to take care of me. And then Nandu, my administrator, his father, who's a janitor in one of the monasteries there, he makes all of $40 a month, comes home from work and talking excitedly in Hindi, and he is pointing at me, and Nandu goes, "Now." Long story short, in the 90s, that state government in India gave poor men or poor lower class families a chance to sign up for a lottery, a land lottery, and he won. He won this prime piece of land in one of the most sacred cities in our religious history, Bodh Gaya, because it was to try to get them to farm it or to develop it, and he never could. They just never had the money. I'm lying on the bed, Gina, and he gave me that piece of land. He gave me a kaleidoscope, that piece of land. I tell you that because some of the poorest people in the world are the most generous people that you will ever meet.
And some of them are the happiest as well.
And he couldn't have been more happy to give me that. He was going to give it to Nandu, his son, but because I had hired him, he was trying to speak and to say, you know, you will always be a part of our family. And so that piece of land will become, it will develop into not just a school, but a center for all of the girls in these slum rural territories that we're educating to have a place to work, like contractors. We're teaching them tech and hygiene and science, and to develop a skill so that they have their own autonomy for the first time, breaking multi-generational illiteracy. But all of this vision of, okay, we're going to build it here, is because of this one man and his generosity.
At one of the worst points of your life, which had that moment not occurred.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, know. I just like
synchronicity is that's
use
how
me.
It works. You know, if you look at the background of of our screen right now, it's just that dust in the palm of your hands. That's what spirit, that's what spirit uses for us and through us if we allow it.
Right.
And you actually shared that story, which I love, in Science of Mind magazine in June.
I did, yeah.
And I remember it. I just was so touched, because people often think that they don't have something to offer. Spirit, as you, is living and breathing. You have so much to give. It's finding what it is that's yours. Mother Teresa, 2 hands and a heart is what she would have. And she would walk into these awful, the worst of Calcutta, as people are dying, but she gave people dignity. She gave them love. She fed them. She stopped the world war, so that children from an orphanage could be safe. Like, this little woman did so much, and it wasn't through might. It was through being that avenue of change. So I thank you for really allowing spirit to work through you in so many different ways, in that kaleidoscope kind of view, because that's really what it's all about. And we've had a few comments, and just to know, I just wanted to make sure, you have Roland.
Roland went to, he actually serves on our board, and he went in the early days to Cambodia and helped me do the dirty work of digging holes in the ground and helping build the first school pavilion. Hey, Roland.
Thank you, Roland, for being here. And Martine was happy to have you here. She also was, she met you at Reverend Ed and Rev G's ordination at CSL Greater Boston when she was there.
Cool.
And of course we have Wayne, that yes, absolutely shine like a star in your own special way, add a beautiful light to the world.
Thank you, Wayne.
And absolutely, that's what it's all about. So if anyone has comments or anything that they'd like to ask, please feel free to let us know. And I want to make sure also, I'm going to put your different sites up again. Again, Kaleidoscope Children Foundation, Kaleidoscope Child
Foundation. Yeah. Brand new website, just got finished 2 days ago. So
go over there, and absolutely, we get to help the change that we wish to see in the world. We have opportunities. When you think about the fact that he worked and supported his family on $40 a month, anything, even, people think $10 isn't much. That's a week's pay for these people. So anything and everything helps.
That's right.
And your website, your email, if people wanted to send a question directly, they can reach you at david@davidault.com, and the website with your classes, both the one that's weekly so they can hear you weekly for your message, or if you're interested in the gathering, which is your online, you have that.
I have the wisdom school, and then a 7-week satsang, I like to call it, where we're going to look at a lot of pivotal rich material and
which looked amazing.
Work to go, develop the quiet on the inside. So
That looked absolutely amazing. And your books, of course. So anybody that is interested in that as well, they can, go to amazon.com for your works, or your website, because you also have a link to buy them on your website, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So just know that, we love the work that you do, and I am a fan and so grateful that you are here. And I know it's not a brief question, but how did you know you were called for ministry? Because I usually start with that, and we ended up on a twisted road. So I guess we'll end in that. How did you know that you were meant to be a minister?
I didn't. I was a nerd. I love to learn. And, my mentor was Louise Hay. She was like a mom to me. Traveled with her in the early days during the 80s, and in a very painful time in our history with the experience of many people going through AIDS, and just watching her navigate through all of that and do her best to love people. And she had been a Science of Mind minister. And so because of her and that time era, we started to sing at a lot of religious science churches, and then a lot of Course in Miracles things. It was with Mary Ann Williamson in the early days, and a bunch of people in the Los Angeles area who were involved in Science of Mind. And so I found out there were classes, so I just started to take them. And it wasn't to be a minister. It was just, I like class. I like to study. I like all of those things. And Maureen Hoyt, the woman I mentioned, Whatever Gets You Through the Night, she was so wise, because when I finished, and this is way back, the next thing was Practitioner. And I was like, I don't want to be a practitioner. And she goes, oh, I know, but why don't you just take the coursework? Because I know how much you like to take the courses. And so I did. And she goes, I know, but why don't you just take the licensing and just go through the test and do all of the paneling, because, just try it. And then it was like, I don't want to be a minister. I know, but why don't you just go through all of the and there you have it. It was like, once I was in and invested all of that, I was like, okay. And I was an actor, and I kind of just eventually put I pulled my big toe out of the pond of that world and that pursuit, and then just leaned into being a minister.
Well, I, for one, am grateful that you did, and grateful for all that you put forth in the world. And I can't wait for you to come back and tell us more about it. So okay. I hope to see you again soon here on The Joy is in the Journey. And anybody that has questions, remember, please, that, how to get a hold of, you can go to the website, kaleidoscopechildfoundation.org, or directly to davidault.com. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you, Gina. You're so good at this. You're so good at this. That's awesome.
I'm grateful to be part of a wonderful, wonderful, we've got newthoughtmedia.org. There's information if there's anything that you want to know. Also, to donate, you can go to ntmedia.org and click the donate button. Know that we are here spreading good news because of people just like you. So let people know about the station. Let people know about this particular show. Share it. Put it on your page. Let people know there is good news out there and that we have fun doing it. So really, being in this place with you has been a gift. It is definitely a joy in my journey. So thank you so much. And I am wishing everyone, may you all find the joy in this day. Don't hold off. Be right where you are. Find the joy right here and right now, because that's why we're here. That's really why we're here, because, what are we giving if we're not being in that state of love? And that doesn't mean we're always happy, but we are fully content. But there is that joy that is always available. That spirit, as you, I am knowing and holding for you. So thank you for the blessings. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you all for being here and watching. Have a blessed day. Blessings and love. Namaste.
Namaste. Bye, everybody.